Hi there, we're continuing to read from Luke chapter 6 and from verse 17. He went down with them and stood on a level place. A large crowd of his disciples was there, and a great number of people from all over Judea, from Jerusalem and from the coast of Tyre and Sidon, who had come to hear him and be healed of their diseases. Those troubled by evil spirits were cured, and the people all tried to touch him, because power was coming from him and healing them all. Looking at his disciples, he said, "Blessed are you who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you who hunger now, for you will be satisfied. Blessed are you who weep now, for you will laugh. Blessed are you when men hate you, when they exclude you and insult you, and reject your name as evil because of the Son of Man. Rejoice in that day and leap for joy, because great is your reward in heaven, for that is how their fathers treated the prophets. But woe to you who are rich, for you have already received your comfort. Woe to you who are well fed now, for you will go hungry. Woe to you who laugh now, for you will mourn and weep. Woe to you when all men speak well of you, for that is how their fathers treated the false prophets." And so, a new passage, Jesus doing some preaching. It's interesting, when I read this the first time, I saw that it said, looking at his disciples, he said, and so it's like this passage is just for his disciples, but then earlier on it says a large crowd of his disciples was there. So it's not just talking about the 12, it's talking about the crowds of people that follow Jesus, and disciples are people that follow. So it's not kind of a once-off, just a crowd. These are people that were coming regularly to hear what Jesus had to say, and they would have seen themselves as disciples. And then within that, Jesus had the 12 that he called disciples and also designated as apostles. And then just the look, and this for me is just a passage to look at and try and read and figure out. Like, I don't know that there's a great teaching that I have or that I can fully understand it, but there's something going on here in terms of healing. There's something that is happening. So people are coming to be healed of their diseases. Those troubled by evil spirits were cured. All the people tried to touch him, and it says power was coming from him and healing them all. And so that for me is quite a curious piece. And as you all know, if you watch these videos or hang out with me, like, healing has always been one of the things I struggle with in terms of God, in terms of things that I've prayed for and I haven't seen happen. And yet when Jesus prays for people, people get healed. There's a power that is coming off him in a way that seems to indicate, it seems to suggest that the crowd were aware of this power coming off him. It wasn't just like that this was a special guy, but there's this sense of power. There's something happening that those who arrive diseased are leaving undiseased. And so there's just this really powerful thing about who Jesus is, and that's incredible. And then there's this moment of kind of switching things to teaching the disciples, but the crowd of disciples. And each of these things seem to have an aspect of now. So blessed to you who are poor, who hunger now, who weep now, when men hate you, exclude you, insult you, and reject your name as evil. Blessed are you in those things. And those things don't seem like very blessed things. They don't seem like things that we chase after, like being hungry, being thirsty, being poor, crying, being hated by people. But Jesus goes on to say, rejoice in that day, leap for joy, because great is your reward in heaven. And so this is part of the understanding of the kingdom of God, that there is something later. There is something where all of your struggles and pain and turmoil and even sickness now, there's a place and a time when that is not the case. And I think there's such different definitions and understandings of what heaven looks like that we can get so confused and stressed out by it. I think what's good to hold on in this passage is that there's a better place and there's a better time, and there's a time when things that infect you now will not infect you then. And what a lot of people have done is they made kind of heaven a focus point. And so live however you want on earth, because one day we're going to heaven and everything's going to be great. And I don't think that's what Jesus is saying here. He's saying that if you are in these spaces right now where there's suffering, where there's pain, where things are difficult or whatever, there's a joy, a deeper joy that you can hold on to, that which is a hope of something better to come. But it doesn't exclude us from paying attention to the here and now, and of living here now, which a lot of Christians, a lot of the churches kind of ignored. Like, it doesn't matter as much how we live now, because it's all about what happens one day. And yet Jesus is looking now. He goes on to say, woe to you who are rich, because you've already received your comfort. Woe to you who are well fed now. And I don't think that's talking about people that are eating now, but people that are being well fed in a context where other people are going without. Woe to you who laugh now. I don't think that's suggesting that we shouldn't be laughing now. It's a very nervous passage if it is, but I think there's the idea of being in comfort, of being in spaces where laughter flows naturally, in the context of spaces where people don't have access to clean water, don't have access to sanitation, when people are living in hell, as many people have called townships, for example, then for other people to be laughing and just totally unconcerned and unknowing of what's going on, unresolved to do anything about it, then you've received your reward now. So just be careful. There's a woe that is attached there. Woe to you when all men speak well of you, for that is how their fathers treated the false prophets. So this is Jesus getting like kind of a little warningy, a little bleak with the people following him, and just saying like there is, I think there's a sense of there is more now. Don't, and he kind of gives it in the picture of this thing that is coming. So take joy, find meaning in the fact that there is something coming. So, but because of that, live well now. And you can't kind of take this separate to or apart from the rest of his teaching, where he's told us that the greatest commandment is to love God and to love your neighbor as yourself. So this isn't to be held separately from that stuff. If the loving of your neighbor causes you to be hungry, causes you to be sad, causes people to mock you, then don't let it get to you, because know that eternally there is a space and a time when things get balanced out, when things get turned around, when that joy will be lived out. But this comes with that lens. Jesus didn't have like 5 different messages that were all separate from each other. He had a message. He had this beckoning in, this calling in of the kingdom of God, and that kingdom is surrounded, or is built on the premises of love. On the premises of a love that is between us and God, and the premises of love between us and each other. And it actually extends to the premise of love for the planet, like looking after, managing well, being held accountable for the way that you treat the space you're in now. Live well now. And if you live well now in a way that loves your neighbor, loves God, looks out for people around you, then any of the afflictions, any of the negatives that come with that, the fact that the world will look down on you and mock you and say you're doing it wrong, all of that will be taken care of. And so there's a hope in the bigger picture of what will happen to that. So this feels like a tension piece. This feels like a tension piece of look ahead and let what is coming strengthen you for what happens now. Whereas a lot of people have seen, look ahead, it gets better, so don't worry about now, just do what you want, it's all fine. No, don't do what you want. Follow Jesus, which means deny yourself. Take up your cross daily and follow him. What does following Jesus mean? It means going where he went. Where did Jesus go? He went to the marginalized. He went to, in his day, it was women, it was children, it was people with leprosy, it was the sick, it was the Samaritans. People that were pushed to the side, that were marginalized. That is where Jesus went. And so if we're following him, we need to be going into those places. We need to be opening our homes to those people. We need to be opening our money and our lives to the marginalized, so that we can deny ourselves, take up our cross, and be in the process of following him, to see the kingdom now and the kingdom that will come one day. And I think the second part, the hope, is that these things will happen. You will be fulfilled. You will be happy. You will receive this. That strengthens us to be able to live well today. That's how I read this passage. That's how I see it. That this Jesus had a visible power around him, that people could see there was something different. And I think part of that was that the difference in him in terms of healing them, freeing them from demons and stuff, brought authenticity to what he preached. And the way that he lived brought authenticity to the way he preached. And so it caused people to lean in and to listen a bit closer, and hopefully to start following him with their lives, their money, their attitudes, every part of them. And hopefully that encourages us to do the same.